Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Our guest today, Jennifer Boville. Jennifer, it's really good to have you on. I appreciate you being here. And can you tell us where you're calling in from, first of all, and what you do for a living with Farm Girl Cereal? Love that name.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Matt. Jennifer Boville here, calling in from Toronto, Ontario in Canada. And yeah, I run Farm Girl Cereal, which is a healthy cereal line predominantly focused on kids. But what we're finding is every age is loving it, from young to old to everything in between.
That's amazing. I love that. And can you tell me a little bit more about your background? Like, what wanted you to get into this space, and what was kind of the problem with maybe other traditional cereals that you found out there in the market that you were looking to solve, or maybe just do differently with your brand?
Yeah, no, sure. Thanks for asking me the question. And it's one I get quite often because my background has been over 20 years in the corporate space. So I worked in sales and marketing capacity in the telecom industry for many, many years, only to jump to management consulting. And then here I am at Farm Girl. So never had I worked within a small business or a startup or run a small business before. And what I'm really loving is, so my I'm into health, into nutrition. I'm a spin instructor. I have 2 young daughters. And one of the biggest challenges for me was just the mom guilt about how much sugar was in their diet. We always kept the sugary cereals to weekends at the cottage, or, when friends came to the ski chalet, and, just being able to help address a market that was interested in consuming less sugar for their children, but also interested in a really healthy, tasty version. And so we started the company as a keto company and had granolas, baking mixes, pastry flours, muffins, cake mixes, all this type of thing. And we've pivoted as of November, after 2.5 years of R&D and about 900 experiments later, we launched the cereal line. So it's high protein, high fiber, no sugar, and tastes amazing. So, and very clean ingredient panel. So for anyone that, knows a lot about nutrition, you'll see that it's dairy-free, it's gluten-free, it's vegan, it checks a lot of the really important boxes for many different people.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I suppose after you went through that very long process R&D, which, believe me, when I tell you, having so many CPG brand owners on is a very common experience. So I meant to ask too, when did you actually start the brand initially? Before, and I know you went through a long process to get to the point where you were kind of pivoted to the cereal, but what was the actual launch date for the original product?
Yeah, it was actually originally started by my business partner, Peter, and it was started, his wife was unfortunately diagnosed with an aggressive form of Parkinson's disease. She's a doctor, and her doctor suggested that she eat a low sugar, a ketogenic diet. And so that was really the start of Farm Girl. And that was back in 2019. And from there, again, we had a really loyal base of customers, that mainly people eating keto, which is adults. I don't know many moms or parents that are feeding their kids on a keto diet. So we had a great booming business. But what I quickly realized when I joined, and Peter was already down this path already, was that the barriers to entry are quite low when it comes to products like granola and making, pancake mixes. And there was a lot of competition in the market. So, our cost of acquisition were increasing, and there were a bunch of new entrants popping up everywhere. And at the same time, a few different cereal companies entered my radar. And I mentioned, just with my own awareness of my personal sugar consumption, my children's sugar consumption, and how the gut microbiome and health and mental health are so clearly tied together. And so that's where we thought, there's a real big opportunity to disrupt the cereal category. So, everyone walks through those grocery aisles and sees, the same sugary cereal on the shelves. And for me, I'm like, why can't we have fun kids cereal line that, actually any age could consume it and enjoy it, that tastes good and is good for you. And so we really set out to create this cereal. And like I mentioned, it's the extruding process, and it was all of these different experiments because we wanted to make sure that we actually put the love and the ingredients into every single batch of cereal. And so from our perspective, that's where the experiments came into place, which creates a bit deeper of a moat around the brand and around the products that we're offering. We manufacture our own cereals. We're not co-packed. We're not picking from a pack and pick list. We're really fine-tuning what goes into each and every bag of cereal and making sure that all of it has functional, nutritional benefits, to kids, to adults, to the aging population. And actually, one of the most commonly asked questions I get is, what are your natural sweeteners? And we don't talk about them in detail, because if I told you the number of people that called, from many other big brands, from many of our competitors, trying to understand how we're actually making the cereal taste so good, that's really our secret sauce. That's what we have spent a lot of time or money and energy developing. So yeah, and I think, I sort of forgot when you asked the last question, that the most exciting thing for me is spending so long in the corporate world, and it was fulfilling in its own way, but to be able to marry, my passions, my hobbies, and my home life, and just my children and some of those challenges that I was having into my day-to-day world, where I feel like everything I'm doing is making a difference, is really fulfilling to me in a way that I've never personally felt before, in my 40s. So that piece is it's really exciting to me, because I feel like we're really crusading changing children's nutrition, one cereal bowl at a time.
That's amazing. I love that story. And it was actually my thought exactly when I first pulled up the website. I was like, is anybody else doing this? I was like, everybody's gone low sugar, like allergen free stuff, and like almost every industry. I'm like, why haven't I seen this in cereal? So it's amazing. I think you've really found an underserved lane there for sure. So it's very cool. And I suppose follow up question to so you started 2019, and obviously pivoted to the cereal line at some point. And then, so what was your kind of general go to market strategy at that time? Were you looking to do mostly direct to consumer? Were you looking to get into retail mostly? And so what was kind of your strategy at the beginning? And then can you kind of walk me up to how it exists today, the kind of breakdown between any retail you're doing versus what your direct to consumer is doing?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. And we did launch the cereal line in November, so it is brand new.
Awesome.
But it is selling like hotcakes. So one of our biggest challenges is we launched in November and could not have anticipated the demand that came. So here I was, days before Christmas, packing boxes myself just to try to get product out the door, only to have us, have a shortage of bags, have a shortage of this thing and that thing, because again, the sales forecast that we created couldn't have ever anticipated how big the success would be. And I think that goes to your last point around competitors. Listen, I'm not naive to suggest we don't have any competitors, but I think we don't have major competitors at this stage. I think we will, eventually, I'm sure, but to have a dairy-free, there's no whey protein suitable for children is a real differentiator for us. And so part of that was, let's nail the Canadian market, because we're based here in Canada. We manufacture, as I mentioned, our own cereal right here at home. And so we had a Shopify instance with a D2C focus. So that's really how we meant to market. We had our legacy customers. I must say, there is some overlap between our customers that are buying baking mixes and buying pancakes and also buying the cereal, but we've been able to really address a whole new market that we didn't do business with before through just a direct-to-consumer outreach. We went heavy on social, so we built a presence on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, we created a community, so really trying to share, really trying to bring the community together to share. And then we showed up at a few really important special events. We were partnered with the JDRF, Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, and showed up at a bunch of their events, and just word of mouth, because the thing is, people think healthy, and I'd say the average consumer isn't actually educated on what healthy means. So you look at, what sits in some of the healthy aisles in the grocery stores, and if you actually pay attention to that label, it's still very high in sugar. It's full of carbohydrates, and that's not healthy, unfortunately. So for someone that's educated, that they really will recognize, what a unique and different brand and offering we have. And so when they think healthy, they think, oh, it's got to taste like crap. And so until we did a whole sampling, we did a PR campaign. It was comparing our product to the sugary versions of the products. So we shared, a bag of ours next to a bag of the original sugary cereal, and people could not believe the taste. So through trying it, word of mouth, we were, doing a bunch of interviews and getting sort of coverage and sales that way. And so it was predominantly D2C. And what has quickly happened, and again, it's only 6 months into, not even, sorry, 5 or 6 months into launching our cereal brand, is the average consumer, myself included, is very busy working, managing kids, lots of different priorities, and maybe don't spend the time to order just a cereal bag or a few cereal bags online. They want it to be in where they're shopping day to day, and they want it to have easy access. And so we had all of the retailers reach out to us to say, we've heard so much about your brand. We want you on our shelves. And so from there, our retail business has really taken off. So we focused on D2C. There's a shift right now to retail, which is super exciting. We're on so many shelves. We have so much demand from a ton of retailers in Canada we're rolling out to 4 big ones in the next 2 months, and across the country. So, 400 store locations. And this is just Canada. So for me, I'm excited. You can order it from the US through farmgirlcereal.com. And we ship through Fair as well. But then there's a whole US opportunity to get it out into, communities in the US. And so, part of my spending the time to talk to you is to get the word out and to help just talk about there are healthy versions. There are healthy versions that taste very good and that are suitable for children as well.
That's amazing. I love that. And I guess a couple follow-up questions to a couple things you mentioned. One being, consumer education obviously is a very difficult thing to grapple with a CPG product, right? The amount of people that are actually going to take the time, even if you have really robust data and like insights on your website, they're actually going to go in and take the time to read those things is probably pretty low. So obviously you're going to, as you get into retail, you're going to be doing sampling and things like that, which is great. But what kind of other channels do you utilize? I mean, between like what's on the packaging, I know some people do like QR codes on their packaging, kind of talking about like similarities, differences, benefits, things like that. So how do you kind of think about that and strategize around the consumer education side?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think one of the things is that I failed to mention, we really relaunched the brand in November. So part of that brand relaunch was a new website, a new look and feel of the brand, new packaging. We really did a brand new splash around Farm Girl cereal. And we had brand ambassadors, and we reached out to influencers. And again, I mentioned social just being an easy way that people digest content. We created that community as well. And then we value our customers through our own EDMs and through our own, connections of content with them. So I would say twice a week, we are, sharing content through email predominantly. We have SMS capability as well. We have the QR code. We've got a story on the back of the bag. Part of the QR code takes you to our social platforms. And I just welcome every opportunity to engage with customers face to face. So I mentioned events. I mentioned these types of things, any type of PR opportunities. I'm fortunate to have our manufacturing plant is in the back of our office. But the front is customers come in and can shop here. And so I'm constantly interacting with customers, asking what they need, asking how we can do better, getting feedback on, how they want to digest content. Because in this busy world, it's really hard, even for myself, to cut through the clutter and to cut through the emails and to learn more. So I think it's something we're continuing to get better at. But I think we just try to stay really connected to our customers and to prospective customers, and try to just hit the high notes on what are the most important things that we want them to take away. And, I think the importance of, just understanding what you're putting in your body and how the gut brain connection and how sugar, I sound like a bit of a preaching over here, but how sugar is fueling diseases, and how, now is the time to just really be more focused on what you're putting in your body. I think of my body as a car. How do you want to fuel your car? What are you doing on a daily basis? And we talk about starting your day the Farm Girl way, which is, waking up, sweating, eating healthy, meditating, whatever that looks like for you, but really putting yourself first and really putting your health first, because, it's physical health, it's mental health, it's just health and well-being is really the most important thing in life, right? You have nothing without your health. So that's what we try to get across to our customers and to our prospective customers as well.
No, it's amazing. I love that as well. And I think especially with gut health has been obviously a big topic of conversation on social media and just in general sentiment. I think people are really wising up to that, understanding that it's kind of like your second brain down there and
Yeah,
then how it can
totally.
affect every single part of your body. So that's amazing. And it seems like, you've really taken to understanding that consumer education to like end consumers who are not necessarily kids is becoming important to you. So
Mhm.
leads me to believe,
Mhm.
you've obviously tapped into an older, demographic with your
Mhm.
sales as well. Even though you probably
Mhm.
made it originally for kids, I think you may have mentioned. But at what point down the line did you kind of notice that this was getting a lot of appeal, not just for parents buying for their kids, but maybe for people maybe who aren't even parents or parents actually enjoying it
Mhm.
themselves too?
Mhm.
Where did you kind of figure that out? And it seems like you're kind of doubling down on that idea. So
Yeah, no, it's a great comment. And, at the end of the day, through research, moms are doing a lot of the spending and moms are in the grocery store doing the buying. And so they're helping to influence. But kids are also on TikTok and making recommendations on what they want, through to their parents as well. So I mentioned early on Shopify, tons of data, tons of insight around who our consumer really is. And so although we started our cereal journey with what we call the core four cereals, which is our version: chocolate puffs, similar to a Cocoa Puff, Honey O's, similar to a Honey Nut Cheerios, Rainbow Hoops, which is similar to a Fruit Loops, and then Cinnamon Crisp, which is similar to a Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So we're like, oh, it's kids cereal, but we realize there's a lot of adults that like have the nostalgia of yesteryear and like remember eating it, and they're like, wow, I can actually eat this and not be on a sugar high for the night or for the rest of the day. And then we quickly pivoted to manufacture 3 additional cereals, which I would suggest are more adult friendly to the palate. And there's a peachy blueberry snaps that has some almond crackle crisp in it that's delicious. And then there's a double chocolate strawberry, as well as a banana apple fritter. And so I think those cereal SKUs are really appealing to adults. And I'm hearing more and more through testimonials, through outreaches directly to me, and through our data that it's adults. And it's not only, my age and the moms, in the 30 to 45, 30 to 49 space. It's even the older seniors that want a healthy meal, want something quickly, but don't want to cook for themselves, but are aware of they need more protein, they need more fiber, they need less sugar. So it's actually a bowl of cereal replaces a meal. So it's not just a breakfast thing. It could be lunch, it could be dinner. And so we have literally videos and data of toddlers, at 1 year old, with their first food they're eating is our Rainbow Hoops, up to I had a 90-year-old customer, tell me all about how this was his favorite meal, and everything in between. So I'd say most of our sales is definitely, in that middle sweet spot with adults buying for children and children consuming the product. But I think it's just been a really interesting journey that everyone's eating cereal and everyone's eating it not only for breakfast. So I think we really nailed just, knowing our customer, but also having a product that's, broad enough that it really could be consumed by anyone.
yeah, no, it's amazing.
And
I
through the
love that.
Shopify data, you
Mhm.
can really just determine exactly who's buying, which we've really leveraged that data to focus on our R&D around what new cereals we'll make, and where we should be and how our media buying is done, and all of that kind of insight.
It's such a unique benefit that I get to talk about a lot on the podcast. You could probably imagine with so many brands propping up in 2019, 2020 time, kind of like you did. Obviously to have that data is significant in and of itself to continue to sell more through your online
Mhm.
channel, but also as
Mhm.
you are right now getting into more retail channels as well, being able to have those conversations with all that data behind you and a proof of concept and
Totally.
just kind of like some leverage going into those conversations rather than maybe trying to get into some of the biggest retail chains with like very little sales or just like kind of with an idea or a prototype can be really, really difficult and volatile in those
Yeah.
situations. So it's very, very cool. And do you find yourself like definitely utilizing that type of data to try to like have strategic conversations around like, where in the store it should be and types of things like
Absolutely.
that in those conversations?
Yes, absolutely. On the regular, quite frankly, because so
Mhm.
much of the success is, you got to educate the customers before they're walking in the store about the benefits of the product. We're starting to do more and more demos, like more and more sampling and tasting events, in the retail stores that we're in. But, I think the big aha is where are you? Are you in the right places? Do you have the right shelf placement? And what is that reorder rate, or, making sure that the retailers are turning over the stock in a timely manner, because that's what they want to do. And that's obviously what we want to do as well. So it's constantly working together in partnership with these retailers to help drive traffic into the store. I'm not saying this is going to be a forever problem, but we're just having great success. We literally launched a new retailer last week, and within the first week, over 600 bags were sold in 4 stores. We're seeing these orders increase 400% month over month. And so I think that it is important to know where your consumers are buying, what the price point is that they're willing to buy it at, and make sure that you're placed in the right space on the shelves. And all of that, we have regular reviews with our retailers to make sure that we've got that data, we're supporting them, in the best way that we can. And it's, as I said, in an effort in partnership to make sure that we're getting the product out to, customers. Yeah.
Awesome. And then, as I mentioned right before we started the recording here today, one question I always love to ask everybody that comes on the podcast, which is basically, obviously you kind of already made a pivot from the original, product line of the brand, pivoting into this very recently. But I suppose barring that, if you could go back to, the original days of the brand back in 2019, even before you made the pivot to the cereal line, if you give yourself any kind of, whether it's business, personal, operative advice, if you were to start with this brand again, what do you think that piece of advice would be?
And I'm like, in my head, as you were talking, I'm like, wow, beyond the brand, it's life, really. I was so focused on my corporate journey and, climbing the corporate ladder and, for many, many reasons, I didn't really realize there was a life or, opportunities outside of the experiences that I had had. And so, if I could look back to my younger self, I'd say, literally go for it. Like, take a risk, do it, you'll figure it out, you'll land on your 2 feet, and just to take risks, just to be a bit more of a risk taker. Because I think, I started at my first corporate job as a summer student, and then they, welcomed me back full time. And then I just sort of thought, heads down, work hard. And this is life. And it's funny that in my 40s, I decided to sort of pop my head up and see, what else was out there. And so I think even if I look at Farm Girl, and before I was part of it versus now, I think it's just making sure you are looking at the data and looking at the trends and really identifying what customers need. And we may have made the pivot to cereal even earlier, or just looked at, different ways to innovate and different ways to continue to change and learn and evolve as a brand. Because I think, there's obviously the tried and true brands that are tested and really well known in their space. But then I think there's, a real opportunity to continue to evolve and continue to listen to your customers and to continue to develop. So I think, my advice for someone starting out would be, if you've got a great idea, like, go execute it and constantly be tweaking and changing and improving and innovating as you go. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be perfect from day one. It's how do you get started, and how do you turn an idea into an action, and how do you continually look to, evolve on the regular? Because it sort of, I guess, goes back to my corporate experience. It's easy to get stuck, right? It's easy to get sort of, into a routine and into what and producing what you do. But I think the cooler opportunity comes from looking at the opportunities around you, looking at, what other people are doing, and just challenging yourself to do something different, to take a risk, to just really think outside the box, I think would be my recommendation. And listen, when I was in that corporate chair, it's like easier said than done. It was a big paycheck coming in and certainty and all the rest of it. But I just can't tell you the personal fulfillment I've had from making this transition. And again, it's maybe a bit late in life, but, my one regret would be I should have done it earlier. But again, you live and learn, and all you can do is sort of move forward, right?
Yeah, no, and I think that's great advice. And it's one of those like old kind of marketing adages or like go to market things, which is basically like, if you're not embarrassed by your first product you bring to market, you did it too late, right?
Yeah.
No, I definitely appreciate that advice.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, I think, and I hear that a lot from, it's a very common answer I get. Obviously, it was just like, oh, I wish I did it sooner. Or sometimes I get these really funny knee-jerk reactions when I ask that question, which are basically like, don't quit your job, But no, people always follow it up with like, no, of course I would never change anything for the world. It's just like, some days I ask myself, like, why am I doing this? Like, I think every entrepreneur can feel like that somewhere along the line.
The other day, I'm like, this is hard. I'm just going to be totally, transparent with your audience. I'm like, this is really hard. But I'm like, if it was easy, more people would be doing it. And I'm pep talking, I can do hard things. And, hard presents opportunities, and hard shapes you and, makes you a better person at the end of the day. And so for me, I'm like, yes, I can do hard things. And I say to myself, if it was easy, more people would be doing it, and more people would be, hitting the easy button and having success. And unfortunately they're not. So it's okay to acknowledge that it's hard, but in the same breath, and but it's fun and it's exciting, and it's helping me grow and learn and all these types of things, which just continue to evolve who I am as a person. And so, I've really relied on just a network around me of supportive family and the most amazing friends, and just the exciting opportunity, and just really the passion behind changing children's nutrition and having healthier options on the table, and trying to reduce some of the sugar consumption that I do, now know through studies I've read that are, as I said, contributing to disease and mental health challenges and ADHD and all the rest of them. So for me, I'm doing good. This is, I'm trying to just change history, which is super exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love what you're doing, Jennifer. And I just want to give you an opportunity right before we get off here as well to just plug your website, your social media pages. Anybody that might be listening may be interested in a potential business partnership with you, or just wants to try out the product, see where they can find it. Let everybody know how to stay in touch with you all.
Yeah, no, thank you, Matt. And thank you so much for this opportunity, because it's one of those things, like I mentioned, we're a new brand in the cereal space, and need to get our story out there. And hopefully someone can either relate to me or, relate to Peter. And so our website is farmgirlcereal.com. So you can find our product there. I'm Jennifer Boville, and you can find me on LinkedIn. And I have lots of people reaching out to me through that. I've got a whole new network of people, and I'm just loving meeting all these other founders and passionate, small business and startup owners and people that are running businesses. And I would love to stay in touch. If anyone wants to collaborate, as I mentioned, we're on Instagram at FarmGirl. We're on TikTok, and we are on Facebook and YouTube. We've got a minor little glitch, but we should be back on YouTube shortly. But I think we're pretty easy to find. We're on the shelves in a lot of stores. We'll be on the shelves in many other stores soon. Any positive feedback, any love, tag us on social, reach out to me directly. I'd just love to stay connected and work with other founders and learn, because I'm newer to the CPG space, and I know that there's a lot to learn, and I'd love to learn from other people's experiences as well. And I'm happy to help anyone who's in the same position I am with whatever learnings that I've had, which are a lot over the last year or so. And again, just thank you to you and the crew for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you as well, Jennifer. I really appreciate you being here. I just want to wish you the best of luck and continued success. I love what you're doing, and I really look forward to staying in touch.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.